it's Alyssa, otherwise known as Mrs. Comet Hunter on Instagram, Ravelry, YouTube, all that good stuff. And I'm here to tell you how my skirt's going. My Sea Glass skirt by Jill Stover. I have finished Tier 1. So I'm going to talk to you about Tier 1, how it went, some modifications that I'm making to the pattern, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to do for Tier 2. There will be 6 tiers, so my plan is just to do a video after each tier is done. So let's get to the goods. So first of all, here is Tier 1. It is right there. So the first cream part right here, goodness, right here, that was the band, the waistband. So that's not actually part of Tier 1. It's basically a 2x2 rib. And then you can see there are these eyelets every few rows, or every for a few stitches, I should say. That's for a ribbon to be woven through to tie the waist together. So that'll be pretty. And then starting from the dark brown down to where the needles are, I can't even see what I'm showing you, so hopefully it looks okay. What's Tier 1? And this is a linen rib stitch. Kind of a pain to knit, I gotta say, which is why I only got as far as I did. But I got further than the pattern calls for. So the pattern called for the Tier 1 to be 3 inches from the cast on edge. And I've done 4. And the reason why I'm doing that is I would like a much longer skirt than the pattern generally makes. If you take a look at the Ravelry page, you look at all the projects, most of them kind of hit just above the knee. That's a cute length. I think like it's really cute and flouncy, but I wanted a longer skirt. So I'm gonna knit it to about mid-calf. I'm about 5'8", 5'7", okay. I'm 5'7.5". I'm 5'7.5". I want to be 5'8". I'm not, but that's me. And my waist is very high, so I need to knit a skirt that's about 30 inches in length. So I'm going to increase the length of each tier. In the pattern it says, 3 to 3.5 inches per tier. So what I'm going to do is add an extra tier. So I'm going to have 6 instead of 5. And my tiers are going to be about 4 to 5 inches a piece, depending, quite honestly, how bored I get with the stitch in each tier. So that's why this one I could only get to 4 inches, because doing this linen rib stitch, though it looks lovely, like it looks like this really nice woven fabric, it was quite trying to knit, I gotta say. It's a 1x1 rib, but yeah, that's a lot of ribbing. So each tier is going to be 4 to 5 inches in length. I'm going to do 6 tiers. So in her 4th tier, her 4th tier, which is going to be my 5th tier, she actually gives 2 opposite options for stitches. So I'm just going to do both. I'm going to do a tier of both. So that's how I'm going to get an extra tier, making me have 6. So that's going to be one of my modifications, or a couple of my modifications. Each tier is going to be longer, and I'm adding a whole section. So yeah, so that's how I've gotten so far. It only took me a couple days, which is nice. So my next tier, Tier 2, first I need to do a garter ridge round. So I'm going to knit 1 round, then purl 1 round. And then I'm going to do an increase row before I start Tier 2. Now, in reading the notes on some of the other projects on Ravelry, I had a kind of inclination that the skirt might be a little too full for my liking. So in looking at some of my favorite versions on Ravelry, I noticed a lot of them didn't do as many increases. So some of them either just did the increases less frequently within the increase row. So she does a knit front and back and front again for her increase. So some people did it every 6 stitches or 8 stitches instead of doing it every 4, I think she does. Yeah. Other people just did knit front and back every 4 instead of doing knit front, back, front again. So I think I'm going to do that. So that'll make me have less increases, so it won't be as full once you get to the end. And I think that'll be a little more sleeker, maybe a little more modern looking. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. So that's another modifications I'm going to make. Let's see if was there any other modifications. Oh, there's one other thing that you need to do is change the needle size as you go down the skirt. So she says, just a general instruction, just get a bigger needle as you're going down the skirt. And some people, it seems, either just change once, so use 2 different needles, or some people change 3 times or twice. So I think I'll probably just do the one change. We'll see. So I'm using US size 4. Yes, again, sorry, US sizes. So US 4, and then probably when I'm halfway through, so when I start my 4th tier, I'll go up to US 5 and do it from there. Because the last section, the last tier, is a feather and fan type pattern. And I don't want to be doing that on a 7 because I knit fairly loosely and I don't want it to be overly loose, if that makes sense. Yeah, so those are some of the modifications I'm doing. There's some others that I might do as I go along, but I'll talk about that as I get through those. Okay, so just a reminder, the 2 colors I used, I'm not going to show you the labels again, but I'll just show you the 2 yarns that I used in my first tier. This lighter color was the waistband. I did a 2-color cast on, so this is the edge. The darker one is the very cast on edge. The waistband is this color, and then I just kind of went back and forth between these 2 colors. Now, I wasn't very sure about how to switch the colors because in the pattern she just says, you know, just switch it randomly. Pick a bunch of yarn and just do it randomly. Well, I'm not good with making things random. As much as I try to make things random, it becomes a pattern, right? So what I've done is I looked through all the projects on the Ravelry page of the sea glass skirt, and I picked out my favorite one, and I'm going to insert a photo of it right here. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. And this was, when I saw this picture, this was why I wanted to knit this skirt in the first place. So what I did, I went through that knitter's Ravelry page for this project. I looked at how many yarn colors she used, and then I actually went through her skirt by color change and mapped out the colors that she used and then where she used them in the skirt and in what order. So I'm going to use her color change order as a model for my color changes. I'm not using the same colors, but I'm using about a same number of colors, first of all, and I'm using, you know, I have a speckle when she has a speckle. I have a couple dark colors when she has a couple dark colors. So I figure if I do it in the same type of sequence she used, it'll look at least similar to hers, and hers looked really well. Really good. So what I did is I put down all her colors, and I just labeled them A through G, and then based on how much I have of each color, and then how much she used it in her pattern, I have basically created a list of my own yarns that will correspond to the colors that she is using in hers. So for example, her white, I'm going to be using, I kind of read that backwards, Thaw, which is a light blue color. So you can see here in tier 1, she did GCG, so G was a dark brown, C was her gold. Well, for me, G is my Woolland, which is the dark brown, and C was my cream color. And so for my next tier, tier 2, I use EDG. So that was her speckles, her blue, and dark brown. So for me, I'm going to show you right now. It is going to be, I'll show you the tags so you can see. And I was smart enough this time to make sure I have all of them. And I just keep them in my Notion pouch that I keep in my bag for my knitting. Just so I have everything in the right place. So the first yarn I'm going to use for tier 2, which is a lace style pattern. She calls it a wildflower knot stitch, which is a 14 round repeat. So my first yarn is going to be Stitches and Loops. This is from my wonderful friend Verena. She sent this to me for my birthday in my birthday package, and actually I'm going to be using 2 yarns that she sent in this tier. And I'm using her yarn all over the place in this skirt, so it's very much going to be a Verena heavy skirt. So every time I wear this skirt, Verena, I'm going to be thinking of you. So the color is called Country Road, and this is the Aran weight yarn, which I was concerned about, but in feeling it, compared to the other DK yarns, it feels very similar. So I don't think it's going to be issue. And it's also in lace, so it won't be as tight or compact, I guess. So here's that yarn without further ado. I keep talking about this yarn, but here it is. So this is Stitches and Loops. Look at all these beautiful variegations. It totally reminded me of a spring garden. So that's going to be that one. Gorgeous, isn't it? It's going to be beautiful. And then the next color she also sent me is a color called Sunshine. So this is Sunshine. This is a Rowan. I have the label here. Baby Merino and Silk DK. Right there. And the colorway is Sunshine. So I have 2 skeins of this. So Verena also sent me that. So she must have been in a I'm ready for spring mood like I was, as we all were in March, right? And then my third color in this tier will be to tie in back with my first tier is going to be the Wool Land dark brown again. So this is going to be the first 2. I'm going to do about 5 inches. So I'm going to do 2 inches, 2 inches, and then 1 inch. So it kind of ties the first tier in with the second tier. So I think that will be quite lovely. Yeah. So I think that's all I wanted to say today. It's been really lovely knitting this skirt. It's knitting up quicker than I thought it would, probably because it's DK and I'm normally knitting with fingering weight. So that helps. And it also helps that every other row is just knit. So that's lovely. So I'm really excited to see it grow as I continue, and I hope that you are too. So while I'm doing tier number 2, I hope that you do some lovely crafting and knitting and whatever it is that you're doing with your free time. But don't forget to breathe too, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye.